One more time for Will, guys.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Hello.
You know, I realized the other day that I need to stop telling people Happy New Year. And I know you guys are thinking, yeah, because tomorrow's March 1st, but no, it's because in 2025, people think you're a dick. Case in point, the other night I was in Target and I see this little old lady and she's just trying to get her depends off the top of the shelf. And me being the nice guy that I am, I walk up there and I help her get her depends down and she says, thank you. And I said, well, thank you as well, man, and Happy New Year to you. I immediately knew that I offended this woman because she looked at me and had a scowl on her face and she pulled her dentures out and threw them in her purse. Then she kicks her walker out from in front of her and starts doing some karate stuff in front of me. It actually looked more like synchronized dancing in Tai Chi, but I had to get the heck out of there. Because I'm not fighting a senior citizen in a department store, you know? In fact, the only thing that I could think of that would be worse than fighting a senior citizen in a department store is walking in on your parents having sex. It's jarring, it makes your skin crawl, and you'll never forget that smell. But that is just how bad things have been in 2025. I mean, me personally, I have trauma bonded with at least a dozen people on social media in real life in the past 6 weeks. It is crazy. But I like to keep it, you know, positive and everything, and I'll go and ask my friends and family members and coworkers, how's your 2025 going? And the consensus is usually, ah! But you know what? It's okay. Because you got to look at problems in the U.S., and I'd like to put them in two different categories. You got the minority problems that affect people like me, and you got the majority problems that affect pretty much everybody else in this room. And I got to tell you this, in order to see how bad a problem is in the U.S., you don't think about who it affects, you think about who it pisses off. And I ain't gonna lie, in the past 6 weeks, I haven't seen this many white people mad since that OJ verdict in 1995. But you know what, it's okay. It's all right, it's great. But you know what though? Everything's all right. You know, we've been there and we've done that, and we're gonna get through this together. I mean, anybody remember that old cartoon Pinky and the Brain? Mm-hmm. And you remember what they tried to do every night, right? Tried to take over the world. That's right. So guess what? As long as nobody tries to take over the United States of Earth or whatever we're gonna be calling it next week, I think we're gonna be all right. But you know, I try to keep in perspective and be positive about 2025, because one thing is, in a couple months, I'm gonna be 53 years old. And I know a lot of you are looking at me like, wow, that guy's gonna be 53. Black don't crack. And that's a lie. It does. You were not with me at my last doctor's appointment. I got told I got one more Friday night in me, and I'm gonna need a whole bunch of organ transplants, so please bear with me. But one thing that I've really started to appreciate in my 50s is that I'm predictable and I don't like surprises. All my friends know, if you want to hang out with me, you got to give me 2 days notice. Please do not call me at 9 a.m. and ask me to do anything with you at 6 o'clock that night. Because I'm going to make up every single excuse to not be there, because I don't want to be around you. But meanwhile, I'm sitting there on the couch with my wife, watching TV with the dogs, and I'm like, you know what, babe? We should go out for dinner tonight. And my wife is like, great, what time you want to go? You know what I say? 6 p.m. So a couple of years ago when I turned 50, I decided to buy a sports car. I bought a Jaguar F-Type, fully loaded, white, 400 horsepower. I mean, this thing had all the bells and whistles. And it was great because in my 30s and my 40s, I was pretty conservative. So I decided that I was going to kick it up a notch and start living on the edge. And so I went to the dealership and I signed all the paperwork for this car. And I remember they were telling me, well, you know you can't leave without this car before you get the insurance. And I was like, okay, no problem. And me, I was actually happy because I was sitting up here, I'm 50 years old, I bought this really powerful vehicle, and I knew that my insurance rates were gonna go through the freaking roof. You won't believe this. I was on the phone with the insurance lady for 10 minutes. My insurance went up 38 freaking cents. I was offended. I'm screaming and yelling and cursing at this lady, and she finally calmed me down. And she was able to tell me, well, sir, the thing is, you're 50, and based off your driving history and the fact that you haven't had an accident or a ticket since dial-up internet, this is why it's so low. And you know what? It was okay. You know, I got off the phone and I humbled myself. And there it is. I got in a sports car that had 400 horsepower. And I drove home 10 miles under the speed limit because I knew she was right. I'd been defeated. Another thing, though, that I really love about being in my 50s now is happy hours. They are amazing. You know, I used to go to happy hours a lot, and then I lived somewhere where they didn't, and I'm back into them now. And you know, I used to think that happy hours were mainly for alcoholics and college kids, but they are amazing. Where else can you go and get cheap drinks and food at 3, get drunk off your ass at 5, and at 7 get in your Uber and pretend like nothing ever happened? It's great. I love it because you got the 3 G's in there. You go out, you get drunk, and you go home. And I have to get home early, and it isn't because of the wife, because my wife, honestly, she could care less. It's my dogs. My dogs, they wake up early in the morning. And so the thing is, they don't care if I had a good night or bad, drunk or sober, I gotta get up and take them out. And so have you ever been up early in the morning and trying to open up the kennel and let your dogs out? Well, the thing is, my dogs are really smart. You know, when I'm sober and everything's good, they call me dad. But when I piss them off, it's sir. So here it is, I'm coming out there and look up the kennels, my 2 little dogs run out and they look at me and they're like, sir, do you remember a few years ago when you adopted me and my brother, you agreed to take care of us, right? Yes or no? And I'm going, yes. Because now the roles have switched. I'm now the pet. I'm being chastised. And they say, okay, do you also remember that when you agreed to adopt us, that you were going to take us outside to poop or pee whenever we needed to go? That's right. So what you need to do is go ahead and get that leash and take us out there, or we're going to go right here in the living room. It's your decision. Either way, you got to clean it up. And you know what? I did. I'll tell you another thing, though, is I love being married. I love being married so much that I've done it a lot of times. A lot of times. I mean, I've been married 3 times. And you know what that comes from, being married 3 times? That comes from being an idiot. Being a complete idiot in relationships is how you can end up being married 3 times by the time you're in your 50s. But you know what, though? It's great. My wife is sitting up front. I love her to death. She's a great partner. We've been going on 8 years together, and that is my woman right there. The only thing, though, that I don't like about being married is being married in the wintertime. Because, see, the wintertime, it starts to put a couple of little kinks in the relationship, and it just makes things a lot harder. Case in point, you know, in the wintertime, it's like any other night, we go in the bedroom. And I walk in there and I'm waiting for my wife and I see this beautiful, curvaceous, sexy woman come in. And she looks me right in the eye, and my wife is always cold in the winter. She's always cold. She looks me right in the eye and she proceeds to put on a beanie and a sweatshirt, 2 pairs of sweatpants, some socks and boots, and then gets in the bed. Meanwhile, I gotta get in the bed, you know, wearing nothing but boxers because I'm going, wow, I guess this is what it's like to sleep next to your wife if you and your wife were homeless. The room is a cool 68 degrees, but it's 98 under the covers. And I'm gonna tell you something, fellas, for the guys that are married and the guys that are not, when your wife is all warm and snuggly and in her happy place, do not try to get any while she's like that. You would be like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. You got on your fedora and you got your torch and you trying to put your hand in the treasure before the guard wakes up. Thanks, everybody.
One more time for Will Frank, guys. We have one more comic left.